Welcome back. We're going to jump into this offseason, but I figured we should start on this screen. This screen shows us our goals. You'll notice some of these goals are for 2027, and some of these goals are for beyond. So our main goal for 2027 was don't suck completely this season, and I now know because this text is green that we managed to do that. With 70 wins apparently qualifies as not sucking. I don't know exactly what the threshold is, but if it was 70, we just barely got there on the final day of the season. Now, this is important because I don't want to get fired, and if I don't reach enough of these goals, I will get fired, with, of course, any sort of win-loss goal being the most important. So for 2028, one of our goals is to keep building the team up in order to reach the playoffs. I don't know if that means we have to reach the playoffs in 2028 or else I'll get fired. That's going to be a tricky proposition considering we haven't even been above 500 in this save, but I'm going to try. And we also see for 2028, one of our goals is to bring more of our drafted players into the team. We have about 2 or 3 guys who could do that, but I don't know if any of them will put up a lot of WAR, and that's really what's going to come down to is can those guys put up WAR. Increasing fan interest will also be key for us as well as increasing attendance because we've increased it some, but we have not reached that 21,000 per game threshold yet going into this offseason. So with that, I advance to the offseason, and our season score is 357. This is generally out of 1,000, although I think you can go above it if you really go above and beyond. Regardless, this is not a very good score, Foolish. You can do better. That's the feedback we've been getting lately, and it's making me nervous about my job security. Here's the feedback from A's owner John Fisher. Team record, he says, tough year to be an athletics fan, which is kind of weird. Like, there's kind of a disconnect there between, him telling me not to suck, me not sucking, and then him saying that we suck, in terms of the feedback. Increased attendance, we've made some progress, but we're not there all the way. Improve fan interest, that's going to go hand in hand with attendance. Draft record, that's going to be, a project for us this year. Can we get Braden Holcomb and Devin Taylor up in the big leagues? International amateur fines, that's a long-term goal for 2031, so we have some time for those guys to develop. But the important thing here, ultimately, is that our contract was extended. So 3 more years of my regime. I believe we talked about this last episode, but I'm going to kick off this offseason by making some new personnel hires. Maybe a new scout will help us along the way. Here's how we'll be setting up our player development lab for the offseason. This one will be a short-term goal for Zach Geloff. It'll only take 4 to 5 weeks to see if he can do it or not. But the rest of these are going to last basically the entirety of the offseason. Here's how we're doing salary arbitration. It features some pretty aggressive non-tenders. These players with a pound sign next to their name, that means I've offered them a contract in an attempt to bypass arbitration, and they will most likely take it. That goes for Josh Mears down here as well. Scott Effross, I didn't realize was a pending free agent, but we've offered him a deal as well. The aggressive non-tenders come in the form of, believe it or not, Cole Reagans, who we just traded for. He was in that Matt Chapman deadline trade. He wants $5.6 million. His expectation is starting rotation, and he just was really bad for us. So I'm not totally against the idea of coming back and trying to sign him later, but $5.6 million to commit to that right now, that's hard, or $6 million or however much his demand was. Lovelady non-tendered, that's not surprising. Shea Langoliers, this is a big one, unfortunately. I mean, he'd been so good for us, but $11 million ARB estimate for a guy who was well below replacement level, that just doesn't really vibe with what we're trying to do. I would be, happy to bring him back on a cheaper deal. His expectation is bench player, so we could totally have him as a backup catcher, but he's going to hit free agency for now. Kind of similar deal for Noda, like replacement level. I don't pay millions of dollars for sub replacement level. I can't, so that's those are some tough moves. We're going to see some OG Oakland A's, Shea Langoliers and Ryan Noda hit free agency, and we'll, probably give our best efforts to bring Langoliers back. Noda maybe not as much just because we have Lo Perfido, Pasquantino, Holcomb, Goodman, so this may be the end of Ryan Noda in an A's uniform, but that's how we're going to do salary arbitration. And another one to watch out for is Denzel Clark. We're offering him higher than his ARB estimate, but still significantly lower than he actually wants. So that's going to be an interesting arbitration case with probably about, $1 million on the line. AL Gold Glove winners here. That includes Ke'Bryan Hayes, who is apparently a Minnesota Twin now as of 2027. And here are your National League Gold Glove winners as well. Your AL reliever of the year is Pete Fairbanks. I was hoping we would see Ronan Kopp show up here somewhere in the voting, but he did not. NL reliever of the year, Yohan Duran of the Milwaukee Brewers, with Trevor McGill of the Reds also grabbing 10 first place votes. AL Silver Sluggers, you'll see Samuel Basallo of the Orioles grabbing it at catcher. He's a big prospect in real life. I'm sure some of you are wondering about Adley. He's still with them, but his ratings have gone down some. He's only like a 3-star catcher right now. We also see Xavier Isaac, the big power hitting prospect for the Rays. He hit 51 home runs this year. In the National League, here's what it looks like as well. We see Matt Shaw, Eloy Jimenez, and Pete Crow Armstrong of the World Series winning Chicago Cubs. Your American League Rookie of the Year is Jacob Cozart, a catcher for the Rays who was their first rounder back in 2024. Wish we'd picked him instead of them. And NL Rookie of the Year is also a catcher. This is Thayron Liranzo, sorry about that, of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Unanimous, again, also a catcher. Alex Cora is your AL Manager of the Year. They had a great team all year, really well balanced. And in the NL, it is going to be Craig Counsell of the Cubs. You'll recall once again that they won the World Series. Your AL Cy Young Award is unanimous. It's Ricky Tiedemann. He has developed into something very special and very scary in this game, just racking up the strikeout numbers. He's had multiple starts where he just completely shut our team down, so he's kind of a nightmare to go against. And then in the National League, interestingly enough, we've got two Japanese pitchers. Shota Imanaga is real. Hirotaro Sakamoto is fictional. And Sakamoto has won it for the Dodgers. That being said, you can see he is now a member of the Boston Red Sox. And if we look at this trade, he was just swapped for Tristan Casas. Interesting. AL MVP, Julio wins again. He gets 22 of the 30 first place votes, despite only playing in 119 games. I remember he was injured around the All-Star break, but he still gets MVP. It's his third consecutive MVP award. Look at all his accolades. Look at his amazing career so far. Well, not that. Look at his amazing career so far. Good for Julio. Absolute beast in the save. And Elly De La Cruz is going to grab MVP for the National League. I believe this is not his first either. Oh, no, this is his first MVP. I'm a little bit surprised by that. But this year, 49 home runs, 30 stolen bases, 8 WAR. Here are the results from the arbitration hearings. The most significant result was Geloff, who demanded 3.8 but got 3.2. The rest of these, the players' demand and the team's demand were so similar that it really didn't make a difference either way. CPU-generated international free agents are entering the market. Usually we've seen like an ace pitcher out of Japan, but we don't have that. We have a Taiwanese closer who looks like he could be pretty good, as well as a Cuban second baseman who definitely looks like he'll be good. Here are your top free agents by demand. This class is headlined by Yohan Duran, Luis Robert Jr., Drew Rasmussen, Pablo Lopez, the Cuban second baseman I just mentioned earlier, Felix Bautista, Camilo Doval, Jung Ho Lee, Eloy Jimenez, Randy, Jojo Romero, interestingly enough, Casey Mize. So an interesting class. We'll see who we end up being in on. Here's how I'll be filling out my Hall of Fame ballot. Yes, of course. Of course I'll be voting for Sean Doolittle. Duh. December 7th, first trade of the offseason. We're going to trade for Noah Miller, who is a player I've been trying to trade for a while now. He's on Seattle. He's a switch-hitting middle infielder. I honestly see him as a shortstop for us, a defense-first shortstop. And I could definitely see him, slotting in at shortstop for us. We move Ortiz to second, where he would be just absolutely incredible, like 80 grade. And then third base, could be Geloff, could be Wilson, maybe someone yet to come. But that's how I think I want to set up our infield. In exchange, they will get Joey Loperfido, who, not bad for us, can play a bunch of different positions, but at the same time, I don't really think has a permanent place on this team. And Hunter Owen. The arrival of Braden Holcomb has made Hunter Owen, unnecessary for us. So that's the swap we're going to do. We're going to get Noah Miller in return. Here are your results from the draft lottery at the winter meetings. The White Sox won the first overall pick. They won 69 games. We won 70. We did not end up in the lottery. The Phillies had the worst record. They'll pick second. But the big surprise is Minnesota. Minnesota, who only had the 14th worst record, jumped up into the lottery, and they will pick third. Rule 5 draft time. I haven't chosen to protect anybody. Probably the most interesting is Rodney Green, who hit, believe it or not, 57 home runs in AA for us last year. He was our 2024 fourth rounder. Not protecting him because he currently has 35 contact. That's really it. I just don't think he would really play at the major league level with 35 contact. So with that said, let's move on to the draft. So the draft has begun. The first pick was Austin Charles, a third baseman. Looks like he could be pretty good, actually. Interestingly enough, Cole Reagans, hello, old friend, goes second. So it looks like the Reds signed him, but maybe they didn't get him on the 40-man in time. Yeah, they signed him. I'm trying to find it here. So it said that he signed a minor league contract with him, but then they didn't protect him, and so now he's an Astro. All right. Let's see if there's anyone we can find. The answer, it turns out, is no. The most interesting position player is probably Will Brennan, but I'm still not entirely going for it. And then looking at relievers, we're looking for sort of like a big stuff Bryce Montez de Oca guy, and we haven't come across that. So I think we're not going to make a pick in this iteration of the Rule 5 draft. December 30th, we have signed a free agent. That free agent is Jade Melendez, who's agreed to a minor league deal that turns into a major league deal if he reaches the majors within 30 days. He's been playing indie ball, and he had a really good season in indie ball. But the reason I'm signing him is because he bats right-handed. He has that captain personality type. So with Langoliers gone, if we really wanted to cheap out at catcher, we could just do a platoon between him and McGuire. And with both of them being captains, it would really keep the peace in the locker room. It's kind of overkill, but yeah, this would be a cheap way to make sure you have good framing catchers and you have an interesting platoon at least. January 1st, some of the big free agents have indeed signed. Pablo Lopez, a 6-year deal with San Francisco. DeGrom was a free agent. I looked at him, but he ends up signing 3 years with the Dodgers. With him being age 39, I just didn't really want to give him a lengthy deal. Randy goes to the Washington Nationals. That's a pretty big one. And then Drew Rasmussen, who is sort of the other big starting pitching free agent alongside Pablo Lopez, goes to the Cardinals. January 15th, still mulling over some trades, none of them as significant as I would really like them to be. They just all kind of feel like lateral moves, but it is time for international amateur free agent signing to begin. So that means we can look at these 10 guys who we've all invited and we've scouted, and hopefully now we can make some signings that will help us in the future. The two players most interesting to me this time around are Edgar Luna, a third base prospect from the Dominican Republic, and Alexis Calle, an outfielder, switch hitter from Nicaragua. I'm probably going to start by offering them their demand, but chances are I won't be able to get both of them. Hopefully I can get one of them, and then once I get one of them, the rest of the dominoes will fall with some smaller signings potentially. I think I am going to go ahead and make an offer to Nick Allen, who just had a terrible 2027 with Milwaukee after being really good for them 2026 after we traded him, kind of undoing all that goodwill. He could be another, he could go back to his old role, basically, go be a bench infielder for us. So I'm going to offer him a contract. And this is exactly what we want. Minor league deal that turns into major league deal. The preseason has started, and we've seen a bunch of free agents sign. Yohan Duran goes to the Dodgers for $100 million, about $25 million AAV. That's over 4 years. And then Luis Robert goes to the San Diego Padres for a 4-year deal worth $96 million. So I've had the absolute toughest time doing trades this offseason. It's been really, really hard to find anything interesting, and I did come up with this, but it's not even really that great from a baseball perspective. It's more about getting the fans interested. So we're going to effectively swap Hunter Brown for Jazz Chisholm. They both have 2 years before they reach free agency. There are some throw-ins right here. None of them particularly interesting. Eric Palmer was our third rounder in 2026, though, so I will point that out. But Jazz, on the other hand, what he brings is the fact that he's locally very popular, and that's going to bring the fans to the ballpark, and that is one of our goals. We have not really done our job in terms of winning on the field, and based on how this offseason is going, I don't necessarily have high expectations for us in 2028, and what will effectively be year 5 of my takeover of the regime. We have some development in the minor league system, but it's been slow. And so we'll be making this deal because Jazz is popular. I think he can fit into this team. I think he can hit righties, and I think Judd Fabian can hit lefties. And we're hoping Devin Taylor can come in and make an impact on this team. But Jazz gives us a very nice floor. So we're going to go ahead and make this trade. I know it's not going to be super popular, but the fans will like it, and that's why we're making this trade. There you go. Fan interest increases slightly. And the next trade we're going to make, appropriately, is for a right-handed pitcher. That right-handed pitcher is Julian Aguilar. He is a control pitcher, a ground baller. I think he can maybe, end up in the rotation for us. His expectation is starting rotation. We have a lot of pitchers of his quality, and it's going to be a matter of mixing and matching and finding out who works where and what role. But the real reason we're trading for him is that he's locally extremely popular, which will also increase fan interest. I suppose it's because he's from California, although isn't Long Beach more like LA rather than the Bay Area? I don't know. In exchange, we're trading away 2 great minor league performers from this year, but who I don't have much interest at in terms of the big league level. Lazarito had a big year in AAA. Rodney Green had a big year in AA. But we're going to move on from these guys. Enrique Bradfield is sort of our, depth minor league outfielder at this moment, and I'm comfortable with that. So we're going to let go of these two and bring in Julian Aguilar. Let's go ahead and complete this trade, and that'll be all our trades for the offseason. Updates from the international free agent class. Edgar Luna wants more money. He has a better offer from the New York Mets, but Alexis Calle has signed for us, and he has signed for us for only $1.9 million. This is big. Look at the potential on this guy. I mean, this is a wonderful signing for us, especially considering switch hitter, high work ethic, not the worst defensive ratings. Like, yeah, you can live with that in a corner. 80 power potential, 60 contact. This is a fantastic signing at the price. And now it's just my job to use the rest of our budget wisely. Hall of Fame voting results are here as well. Albert Pujols gets in, Carlos Beltran gets in, Yadier Molina gets tantalizingly close to first ballot but doesn't get it, and Andy Pettitte drops off. Edgar Luna has signed with Arizona. Let's see how much it was for. Not quite the max, about 80% of their budget. Alejandro Mese has signed with us. This is someone who I was also scouting, who I invited to practice with us, and a really well-rounded offensive profile, listed as a third baseman, probably more of a second baseman or even first baseman, if I'm being honest. But I like the offense, and we signed him for $3 million, which means we've got a little under $1 million left, but honestly, with these two combined, it's a pretty good class for us. I just grabbed this guy. He's a shortstop, Juan Madrigal. He was very cheap. Only 200 grand. I've got about 600 grand remaining left on this international free agency class. And I've spent the rest of it on this guy, a 6'6 catcher by the name of Jorge Lamas. He's Dominican, big power, high work ethic, high intelligence, 60 framing. I'm going to go ahead and give Clark Schmidt another one of those contracts where it turns into a major league deal if you make the roster. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but he's at least interesting to me. I'm also going to make a similar offer to Brett Phillips. We still have potential spot for an outfielder like him, so we're going to give him the invite. And just because I can, let's offer the same to Freddie Freeman. Spring training has started. We're about to pare this roster down to the final 26, but here's a glimpse at our player development lab. Of the 5 players we have working on long-term goals, 4 of them are on track with 5 days to go, so that's exciting. We have our first big spring training injury. It's to Bryce Montes de Oca, who is a nice surprise for us out of the Rule 5 draft last year, striking out 78 batters in 63 innings, 3.5 ERA. He has a partially torn labrum. That is a 4-month injury. That means he won't be back until July-ish. Ronan Kopp also has an injury, but it's herniated disc in his neck. That's a 4-week injury, so that just means he's basically going to miss spring training, but be ready approximately opening day, so that's not a terrible outcome. March 11th, got a couple weeks until opening day, and Shea Langoliers has changed up his tune. Originally, he just wanted a major league deal. Now he will take the minor league deal with a major league option, and we'll give it to him. We'll get him in the mix there, and hopefully he can show out for us. And now it is opening day, and we were terrible in spring training. I think we went like 6-18 or something like that. We were really bad. I don't love this team this year. I feel really bad that I've been doing this for 5 years and have very little to show for it, but I'm going to still keep playing because I'm still having a good time. Let's meet the final 26 Oakland A's for 2028. Opening day 2028, I'm just going to come out and say it. This team stinks. This team stinks. Is this game hard, or am I just bad at it? I don't know, but this team is truly no better or worse than the one I inherited. I would argue the farm system is better, but the team itself at the major league level, 4 or 5 years after I started this save, the team isn't good. Vinny Pasquantino's good. He'll lead off for us. Denzel Clark, Jazz Chisholm versus righties batting third. Josh Mears cleanup. He worked on his avoid Ks once again this offseason. Jacob Wilson playing third base, batting fifth, so he moves from second to third. That's because we have Noah Miller playing shortstop and Joey Ortiz playing second. So I think once these guys get the requisite amount of experience at those positions, it's going to be a really, really good infield defense. We're trying to get back to our roots here and just play better defense. Reese McGuire, catcher, versus right-handed pitching. He bats lefty. And Geloff, DH. Versus left-handed pitching, you're going to find that Jazz Chisholm sits. Judd Fabian instead will play left. And Reese McGuire will sit in favor of Jaden Melendez. So that's how we're going to set up for now. We have guys like Langoliers and Freeman, etc. in the minors right now. They have 30 days to make the majors. Also, Braden Holcomb will DH, and that's our trying to achieve our goal of getting drafted players into the team. Devin Taylor not yet ready. We're going to start him in AAA. Pitching, this is how we're going to line up. Brady Basso made this rotation after a very good spring training. Julian Aguilar is going to be our fourth starter, Ashcraft 3, with Sears and Hall leading the way. We have Gibson Long in middle relief right now. This bullpen, I just don't know what I'm doing. I have just so many of these fringy starter guys. I just don't know how to handle them. Right now we have Hoglund in AAA because he had a terrible spring training. We have Waldichuk in AAA. It's just there's a lot of guys like this. Owen Murphy, long relief / emergency starter. And then Zach Jackson, Ben Bowden, Spitzer Argeti. I like these guys. I like all three of these guys. And then Efros, Boyle, and Kopp in sort of our stopper, high leverage roles. But honestly, it's not a great team. It's not a great team. Maybe we'll surprise people this year, but I'm not feeling super confident. But thank you for watching this series. I really appreciate it. Even if you don't feel like you have watched progress unfold, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed my dulcet tones. And we're going to continue on with what will be my 5th year as GM of the Oakland A's.